Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. Deserts, pirate seas and jungles, how the New York Times recruiters see Africa if their problematic job ad is anything to go by. Have you been on social media today? If so, you're a strike-breaking scab. California brings in a law to ban discrimination against people's hair.
I shouldn't have to put on someone's straight hair that's not even my hair just to be accepted. That makes no sense.
And a scientist wins a beauty pageant, the United States, circa yesterday. And it's top of our newsfeed. It reads like something from a Joseph Conrad novel. The New York Times is being criticized for running a job advert for a bureau chief based in Nairobi. Now, our man from Nairobi, Philip Awira, explains what happened and why it is quite so problematic.
So the New York Times is looking for a new bureau chief based in Nairobi, Kenya. Now recently they put out a new ad looking into what the new bureau chief will be doing. Now that ad has been controversial partly because of how it was phrased and worded. Now part of the ad reads, "Our new bureau chief has a tremendous opportunity to dive into news and enterprise across a wide range of countries, from the deserts of Sudan and the pirate seas of the Horn of Africa down to the forest of Congo and the shores of Tanzania." Now, on Twitter, the reaction has been critical. One user questioned whether or not the New York Times was looking for a journalist or Tarzan. Another user said the way the ad was written just shows just how much the New York Times has little regard for Africans and African stories. Now, this ad comes as no surprise to many people because the way Africa is depicted in Western media is often like that. One colleague of mine one day remarked that how come when African stories are told, especially about the economy, we're always showing markets like an informal market, but in other countries like China or Europe, you're seeing scientists, you're seeing doctors, you're seeing, working professionals. Like, you would never see a Zara in Africa on TV when they're talking about economy. And so the depictions of Africa in Western media particularly is often problematic. One author who spent his entire career looking at just how Western media portrays Africa, especially the images they put out, is Binyangava Wanana. He died recently, and I'm gonna leave you with a quote from one of his most famous articles, How to Talk About Africa. Here he makes fun of just how Africa is written about in Western publications. He writes, "Africa is big, 54 countries, 900 million people who are too busy starving and dying and warring and emigrating to read your book. The continent is full of deserts, jungles, highlands, savannas, and many other things, but your reader doesn't care about all of that. So keep your descriptions romantic, evocative, and unparticular." Now, this job ad by the New York Times is very similar to Binyangava's writing, but while Binyangava is joking, it's not yet clear whether or not the New York Times ad was a tongue-in-cheek ad or whether or not it was serious.
Now, one of the founders of WikiLeaks says people should declare their digital independence today by going on strike from social media. Larry Sanger says some sites and apps have become too powerful and pervasive, and it's time to fight back. So have you joined the strike, or have you been on Insta all day?
Typing and swiping away on social media is so compelling. Hundreds of millions of people spend large chunks of their day glued to the screens of their phones and computers. The virtual world has for many overtaken the real one. Life has become a competition to see who's taking the most exotic holidays, having the biggest birthday parties, snapping the prettiest photos, and caring for the cutest pet. In some cases, taking selfies even leads to death. People have died in falls or have been run down on train tracks. Compounding the problem are the social media companies themselves. They're mining our personal data for their own profit. One of Wikipedia's co-founders, Larry Sanger, believes the problem's so bad, he's urging people to fight back and sign an online petition called the Declaration of Digital Independence. The goal?
Demand that giant manipulative corporations give us back control over our data, privacy, and user experience.
Sanger is a proponent of free internet, and that means
we declare that we have unalienable digital rights. rights that define how information that we individually own may or may not be treated by others, and that among these rights are free speech, privacy, and security. Since the proprietary, centralized architecture of the internet at present has induced most of us to abandon these rights, however reluctantly or cynically, we ought to demand a new system that respects them properly.
Perhaps Sanger has a point, even if it means tweeting, yes, tweeting, hashtag social media strike and flooding your friends and family's inboxes with more memes than a spam bot can generate. Social media companies stand accused of allowing extremist ideology to flourish and democratic institutions to be targeted and undermined. So on Thursday and Friday, Sanger wants people to stop using social media. But if Sanger's strike catches fire, it remains to be seen how we will upload the results.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. Now, in Black Girl Magic news, Halle Bailey has been announced as playing Ariel in the live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. As you can see from this picture, Halle is black, Ariel was white. This is exactly the sort of thing that reverses generations of not seeing oneself on screen and is hugely important in terms of diversity and representation and identity. So, in a Newsfeed first, we salute Disney for the casting decision. Now, this is what helped a woman win a beauty pageant in Virginia in the United States. Yes, those things still exist. Miss Virginia is a biochemist named Camille Schreier, and this is what she did for the talent section of the contest. It's a demonstration of the catalytic decomposition of hydrogen peroxide, and it looks pretty cool. She swapped her evening gown for a lab coat and nailed the experiment. Camille will now go on to the Miss America contest, where she will be judged on how she looks in a swimsuit, as well as whether she can do this with hydrogen peroxide. The influencer, one of the more depressing and pernicious offshoots of social media. They try and get free stuff all the time, but this guy in LA is giving stuff gratis no more. He is in fact doing the opposite and charging the freeloading show-offs double the price. His name is Joe Nicky. He runs an ice cream truck called CVT Soft Serve, and he is my new hero. This picture of his new policy has gone viral. And irony is not lost on internet folk, which is why there is such a stink about the fact that Nicki Minaj will be headlining a music festival in Saudi Arabia. The kingdom, which only opened cinemas and allowed women to drive last year, will be hosting Minaj, whose songs include Rich Sex and Ganja Burn. She also doesn't like wearing too many clothes in public, the opposite of what women in Saudi are allowed to do. She'll be at the Jeddah World Fest on the 18th of July, and an early Newsfeed prediction, the performance will be cancelled. California has taken a step forward in dealing with race discrimination by introducing a new law. Here's Liz.
Dreadlocks, cornrows, twist locks and fros are now protected by law in California. Even, wait for it, natural hair that hasn't been chemically treated to make it straight.
That's not a fashion statement for us. Like, that's our identity, and like, you're discriminating against me because of my identity.
California is the first state to protect its citizens from discrimination based on their hairstyle. They call it the Crown Act. It's an update to the state's anti-discrimination law so that race includes historically associated traits.
In order for us to kind of blend in, we had to relax our hair and make it straighter and, make it look more like everyone else.
Nationally, several black employees have filed lawsuits saying they've lost jobs or faced discrimination in the workplace because of their hair. Democratic Senator Holly Mitchell introduced the bill. She says it hits back against stereotypes about what's professional.
What we've learned through going through the course of this bill is that, physical traits aren't protected under the law. And natural hair, the way my hair grows out of my head as a black woman, is a trait of race. And so that's why we believe many of these lawsuits that have been filed up to the United States Supreme Court have ruled in favor of the employer, because they've not had the law to really resort to in terms of acknowledging personal trait or race-based traits.
The natural hair movement is gaining traction in the US, where many say there's pressure to conform to Eurocentric norms.
World wrestler Andrew Johnson's hair.
Californian Governor Gavin Newsom says a viral video last year of a black high school wrestler in New Jersey having to cut off his dreadlocks in order to compete was a clear example of hair discrimination.
So it's nice to pass a law. We got to change people's minds, and we've got to execute that in a much deeper way. And I think that's the privilege of this moment, is this opportunity for California to lead the first state in the country to advance a bill like this and encourage others to do the same. And I think you're going to see a dozen plus states in the next year. I'd be surprised that don't follow suit.
Hair is a huge part of identity for black people and for, well, everyone.
If my hair is kinky, curly, that's what I look like. I shouldn't have to put on someone's straight hair that's not even my hair just to be accepted. That makes no sense.
The hope is this law allows people to be who they are without fearing they'll be held back by racist, outdated stereotypes.
And Nike is once again at the center of the US culture wars, this time over its use of an old flag on a shoe designed to celebrate American Independence Day.
I hope Nike either releases these shoes or some other shoemaker picks up the flag, puts it on a pair of shoes, and starts selling it. I'll make the first order.
Okay, let's go around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Thursday. Now, the Amazon rainforest is being cut down at an alarming rate. An area the size of 1.5 football fields is lost every minute. Every minute. 769 square kilometers was destroyed in the month of June compared to 488 in June of last year. Brazil's new president cares more for profit than the natural world and has allowed corporations to destroy the rainforest at an increasing rate. Hundreds of people got sick while at the 90th birthday party of Imelda Marcos in the Philippines. She's the widow of the former dictator Ferdinand Marcos. She's very popular, despite the fact that she and her family made themselves very, very rich while ruling the nation. She said sorry to those who got sick. Sweden's Fashion Week has been cancelled as the fashion guys there realised that flying people in and putting on shows with lights and sound system kind of goes against the environmental beliefs they just realised they had. They will be putting on a more sustainable show, whatever that means. And an airline in America has had to apologise after it put one of its passengers on the wrong flight. United Airlines says that the unaccompanied 14-year-old boy was put on a plane to Germany rather than Sweden. The plane didn't take off, so no harm, no foul, I guess. And in today's Animals Doing Stuff, we bring you the invisible challenge. But in my opinion, the actual animals here are not the four-legged kind, but rather the people doing this to their pets. Now, people have been placing plastic wrap across doorways, etc., and then filming their dogs walking into or jumping over said plastic. This really is one of the dumbest iterations of these challenges I've seen so far. Please stop it, internet, or go for a lie down. You are clearly tired. that will do from the Internet Newsfeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints, and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us, 7 on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Follow me on Twitter if you're not striking. Follow, subscribe, and add. See you again tomorrow.